It's Lisa from Been There, Got Out. And guess what? I have another Instagram live version today. His name is Ken Childs, and he's a private investigator in LA, Los Angeles. We always hear is always say that that's the epicenter of where most of our clients are based. We have people all over the world, but LA, I don't I don't know why this is not letting me get him on here. Let's try it. Ken, if you see me, just do the request. Here we go. Yeah, I don't know why it didn't let me try it. But anyway, fascinating interview. I know private investigators have all kinds of awesome stories. And so I thought that we could talk about uncovering fraud and deceit. I'm sure Ken has lots of stories, but also some practical, actionable advice, which is our what we strive to do with our brand. But before you even introduce yourself, Ken, can you tell us what kinds of things people hire you for? I mean, we know cheating, but like what other kinds of things do people want you for? And maybe what's the
Yeah.
weirdest thing you've ever been hired for?
Yeah. So okay. So our our strength is surveillance, right? Anything
Mhm.
surveillance based. So a lot of insurance fraud, which we particularly love, to the cheating spouse, right? And then it's funny that you mentioned like what are the weirdest things we've been hired for. That doesn't come to mind, but like what the weirdest request we've ever had was last week. I just had a caller who wanted me to figure out where their cat was going at 3 a.m. Yeah.
That sounds like some of our clients' exes.
Yeah, it may have been. So like picture this, I'm on the call, I'm taking it very serious. She was obvious very serious about this and yeah, I mean sadly it wasn't a fit. We weren't hired and we couldn't figure out where the cat was going.
Wow. I always think about something called the cost benefit analysis. And I know we love our pets, but I mean, I don't know how long the cat was missing, but you imagine how much money someone's willing to spend if the cat might come back, within an hour or two. Well, you never
Yeah.
know.
Obviously,
Anyway,
we were over her threshold for pain, obviously.
right, right. All right. So Ken, can you tell us a little bit about your background and what drew you to this field?
Yeah, so my background, I've actually only have ever been a private investigator. So 2 weeks before my 21st birthday, I ended up chatting with a couple private investigators, and I wanted to get into law enforcement, and I thought like, oh, okay, well that'll beef up my resume. And what do you know? It was just a great fit. Like the very first case I was on, I just loved it. I literally took the camera from the guy that was training me, and I like left him and did my own thing.
What your favorite thing about what you do?
So oftentimes we kind of get that feeling of like a little bit of like instant justice, like instant gratification, right? Like a small business owner hires us and says, "Hey, a work comp claim is like bleeding us out. We're dying here. Like help us out." And we go and we get video of the person doing exactly what they just said they couldn't do
Mhm.
under whether it was with a doctor testimony, whatever. And so that instant gratification is kind of what drives us.
Yeah, I mean, I know that a feeling of instant justice would be like a fantasy for our community. So it's good to know that you're able to serve that to people. I'm thinking about empathy. Do you find that you have a lot of empathy for your clients and that helps? Because I've talked to private investigators in the past, and they say people tend to be very, very emotional, especially in our realm dealing with super high conflict divorce, custody battles, and co-parenting situations.
Yeah, certainly, of course. I mean, I'm human, right? I'm married, I have kids, I see what others are going through, and so of course I care.
Yeah. What about when you I know you deal with I imagine you deal with like divorce cases because you deal with cheating. What kinds of evidence could you gather to help someone in a situation like that? Like people are often saying, I want to hire a PI.
Well, everybody's situation is different, right? Because in California, if they're cheating, that really doesn't play a part in court,
Right.
except for if they had just lied under testimony, right?
Hmm.
So that is one way that it could be brought in for perjury,
Hmm. So credibility.
credibility, right? Because if they're lying about this, then chances are they could be lying about that.
Okay. What about background checks? That's something that we see pretty often where our client has already separated from their ex and they're very concerned about their kids and safety. And so they think maybe I should hire a private investigator to find out who my ex is hanging around with. Do you ever deal with cases like that?
We do, yeah.
Hmm.
So I feel that it's nominal. Just run a background check, right? You your spouse is hanging out with someone, you just got that vibe. Well, what's a couple $100, you know? Do the
Hmm.
background check. Last week we literally did a background check on someone. It's a horrible, horrible story, but we did a background check, found out that the guy they were hanging out with lost his job as a police officer for soliciting an underage minor. But because of California law, 7 or 8 years passed, that person was then a security guard for a children's facility. So imagine that. I know it's extreme, but imagine that. And let's say, you have a child and you just have that vibe with the person that's hanging around or whatever, if they're in the household, just run a background check. It's nominal.
Yeah. And what you're talking about too, where it's like you have this feeling, I imagine that you kind of relieve a burden from people who feel like I know something is going on. Do you see that where when you come to someone with your findings of something they suspected, they're just like, oh my gosh, I feel so much better, even when it's something bad?
Yeah, and honestly, I like to come at it with that approach as well, right? Like, hey, it's okay. We ran the background check. There wasn't anything there. That's great. That's good news. No news
Mhm.
is good news in this situation.
Yeah. Yeah. What about like in a cheating situation where someone's like, I have this feeling, but my ex is telling me, of course, they're not. And then you find out, do they feel better at the same time that it's awful?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think with that, it's like a double-edged sword, right? Like you're you're glad that you aren't being like gaslit and you're right, and then you're like, damn it, okay, great, I was
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you ever testify in court? Like, do you ever get involved with any custody cases?
I haven't in a custody case. I have not in a cheating case, but I have in several other cases.
Hmm. And I imagine also that your findings, might help prevent somebody from going to court because then you have leverage that might be embarrassing or again like test someone's credibility. Do you
Right.
notice there's a lot of power when you have your stuff together to say, look, we could deal with this outside of court and keep it private versus exposing you.
Exposing it to the world, right? And oftentimes it does play a part in like mediation,
Hmm.
right? Because then at that point you get a little more like players on the chess field right there.
Hmm. For sure.
So yeah.
So let's say that someone in our community situation is looking for a private investigator. Like, what are some questions to ask so that someone could tell if it's the right fit or someone's really good at it?
First off, I would tell the person looking for a private investigator, go online, go check out their profiles, go to their website, see if it kind of gels. If it's all AI written, move on. But if the reviews are, they look credible from reasonable people, give that investigator a call. And more importantly, I I feel like gelling with that investigator is almost more important than, the cost and, the legalese behind it all. Because I wouldn't want the client to get like sold, right? You have so many people that are going to take advantage of that situation and sell you their fear. Like, what?
Mhm.
Oh my goodness, this is happening. Oh my gosh. Okay, we got to get out there right away. That is the person you don't want to hire.
Ooh,
If you,
that's really important. I want to pause because I think about the audience here being very vulnerable anyway because they're so emotional. And so for you to note how somebody could take advantage of your fear like this, I really want to note that. That's helpful, really helpful.
Yeah, I worry about that because they're obviously, those tactics, who knows like what else they're going to do during their investigation. And then also, if you can close your eyes and picture them wearing blacked out sunglasses and a fedora, walk away. You don't want that person either, you know, right? Well, this is a profession. This is real.
Mhm.
This is what we do,
Yeah.
You're in a situation and or your kids are in a situation. Either way, it's very emotional, it's very draining for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
You want a professional. You want someone that can hear you. You want someone that can say, okay, this is what I've heard from you, and
Hmm.
this is what I believe our plan of attack should be. That's the person that you hire.
You know, this is really interesting because in our first book, we talk about how to hire the right attorney. And one of the questions we say to ask is, how would you handle a case like mine? Because it gives the person the opportunity to show first that they've listened to you, and second, that they have a strategy, meaning they're familiar with cases like yours. And what you just said basically is the same kind of question. It's just ask an investigator after you've talked for a while, how would you handle a case like mine to show that the person has been a good listener and can figure out exactly what to do moving forward? Because, like you said, these cases often are complex and there's so much emotion involved. So it's interesting, too, that you talk about what I call rapport, the relationship between a client and the professional that they're working with, just like a therapist, being super important, almost more than anything else, because even though you're not a counselor, I imagine by profession, you do so much counseling throughout the process.
Right. We hear a lot. Right.
Yeah. Wow. Is there anything that you do that you'd say differently than perhaps other private investigators that you feel like I'm really good at this? Like this is what I bring to the table.
I I don't know because this is all I've ever done. And
Hmm.
this is what I do. Like I have a handful of other investigators that I work with, but I don't I don't really like follow other investigators. I just
Hmm.
know that having done this for, I don't know, 27 years now, and back when I worked with a lot of other investigators, I I mean, I was kind of like, not to brag, but they these massive corporations kept stats on us, right? And where the average investigator was at like 50%, right? Oh, they got 50% of video, 50%, they worked this much, they got this much, they went to court that much, and where everybody else was at like 50%, I was never less than 90%.
Okay, so tell us that. So tell us about like what do you think, and you're allowed to brag, because here you are. Like your what's your special sauce? Like there, what in your personality do you think you bring that makes you have such a high level of success?
Just stick to the basics, be confident in what you do. If I'm doing surveillance, I've done it in every neighborhood possible, from the hood to Beverly Hills, right? So
Mhm.
stick to your job, do your job, you know, assess the situation, do the best you can with what you're given, sit back and let the day unfold,
Mhm.
right? There you go. That's the secret sauce. Do your job.
Yeah. All right. So how can people find you, Ken?
You could Google Los Angeles Private Investigator, or on social, we're Paramount PIS.
Mhm.
So across YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, we're there.
Great. All right. Well, thank you so much. Any other crazy stories to leave us with?
Oh my goodness, like what kind of story do you want to hear?
Well, we love drama, especially when it's not our own.
OPD? I'm working a super insane insurance fraud case right now that's just been like dragging out. It's been 6 years in the making, and we're about to go to court on it. And so that's going to be fun because they're aware of the video that I shot and they have nothing to lose. So they're going to get me up on the stand and just go full guns blazing. So bring it
That
on.
should be exciting. Well,
Can I give a
again,
last, like a
yeah.
super last tip, because you brought up hiring an attorney a moment ago?
Mhm.
This is my advice when it comes to hiring an attorney. I recommend that you go through all of their references, right? Again, it's very important that they heard you. Do not go with the top dog. Do not go with the name brand. Go with someone middle of the road. Go with someone that hears you and is an advocate for you, someone that is going to stand up and fight for you. Because a lot of these people will say that, and oftentimes when you get to court, they don't.
Mm.
So you want to read those reviews that say, this person fought for me. This person spoke for me. You need to hear stuff like that. Don't
Yeah,
go
well,
with the name brand just because they're name brand.
yeah, we agree. We say your attorney, again, that rapport is essential because it is an intimate relationship and that person you need to trust them. They're supposed to be your ally and your advocate, and they're going to be your voice. So the same thing. Do you interact with lawyers a lot with what you do?
We do, right?
Hmm.
Because I'm hearing from the client, but then I also want to hear from the attorney because it's valuable. So the client tells me A, and then the attorney might tell me B. Like, yeah, okay, they're right, but this is what I can fight in court. If you get me this, this is what I can do, and this is what I can work with. So oftentimes I do want to hear from the attorney
Yeah, so
because
that's
when we're working like an intense divorce case, you kind of want to work it like a fraud case. You want to
hmm
catch you want to catch lies. Child custody cases. You want to catch them in the lie. You want to catch them breaking the court order. That's something actionable.
yeah. So actually, you just reminded me about something. I've talked about like catching cheating and bad behavior and background checks. Let's talk a little tiny bit about fraud because that's huge. Financial abuse is huge in our community. And I think sometimes people talk about hiring like a forensic accountant. Is there something where a private investigator can really help in finding hidden assets? Like, how common is that with the cases that you deal with?
That has always been like a tough one for me. So fraud is kind of hitting many levels now with divorce. So you have people claiming injuries through their marriage, and now they need X amount more to take care of their like medical and whatnots for however long, that legal system or whatever state you're in allows for.
Hmm
When it comes to financial fraud, if you believe you're going down the divorce road, start taking pictures of everything. You want pictures of bank accounts, you want pictures of credit cards, you want pictures of the cars that you guys have, the second home that you have. You want to take pictures and get titles and all of this stuff, right? Because what happens in these intense divorces are, oh, I didn't make any money. I don't have any money. Here's what I have on paper. Like just a month ago, we worked a producer, and the problem that this gal has is the producer has all of his money tied up in the company. But the
hmm
problem with the production company is so you have the production company, but then you have the 20 movies that they make. So he has probably a credit card for each and every movie, and he's
mm
living off of those credit cards. So his salary is only 40,000, but he's living, a $2 million year salary lifestyle. So thankfully, people are seeing through it, but you need to be able to prove that, right? So you're out to dinner or you're getting mail, or if you're not seeing that you're not getting mail, there's an issue there, right? You're at home, you're bopping along, you're doing your duties, and then like bills aren't showing up, stuff like that. Well, that's a problem too because this person's hiding all of that from you,
hmm
you know?
Yep.
So take pictures of all the banking,
Yeah, that's
all the
really
assets.
helpful. I definitely can relate to someone hiding mail from my own case years ago and things being sent to alternate addresses.
Right. So we can discover assets and bank accounts. It's a little quasi legal, like I can do it legally. Um, it has to do like deal with our back end. But the problem is the majority of private investigators will pretext call the bank, right? Like, oh, hey, I'm Lisa, and this is my date of birth and social and blah, 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 and my address and whatever. Like, so they start pretexting the bank. Well, that is illegal. That should not be done. So if you get
Mm.
the sense that your investigator's doing that, yeah, don't do it. It's not
All
going to
right.
be worth it because then it's inadmissible.
Oh, yeah. So that's why it's so important, I think, for whoever you're working with to be on the same page with the attorney.
Right.
Yeah. All right, great. So Ken, again, tell people how they can find you.
You can find us at across the socials on Paramount PIS, or if you Google Los Angeles Private Investigator, you can find us there.
Great. All right. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. Have a
All
wonderful
right.
day.
You too.
Bye
Bye.
bye.